Good morning and welcome to our Global Missions panel today. We have a stellar team of missionaries and we have Regional Director, Brother Mike Tuttle. Brother Tuttle, why don't you introduce this fantastic team?
Thank you, Brother Wells. It's a privilege and honor to be here again. And I want to introduce here on the stage with me is Robert Kelley, missionary to Scotland, area coordinator for Northern Europe. He serves in the United Kingdom, Channel Islands, and as well as the Nordic countries. Also on the screen we have Brother Baron Carson. He's coming live to us from Paris, France, and he's an associate missionary serving there, working and pastoring in the church in Paris Center. Also, Brother Luke Havens, he is currently in Riga, Latvia, coming to us, pastors the church there. He's the superintendent of the United Pentecostal Church of Latvia. And then also Brother Michael Patterson coming to us from Bucharest, Romania, who serves as the pastor there, superintendent of the work there, as well as the area coordinator for Eastern Europe. These are great men and great missionaries. Brother Wells.
Fantastic, Brother Tuttle. What a great team. Honored to have you all with us today. Let's not pretend, but let's know for certain that someone's watching out there that has a call to the mission field. We're going to deal with a very practical item, but of course it has to be spirit-led. We're just going to take a turn around the room and address this question. We're going to start with you, Brother Kelley, this morning. Yes, we want the Holy Ghost to lead us and guide us, but when a missionary is facing the choice of working in an established country versus working or pioneering a new work where there is no apostolic presence, talk to us about what we need to be praying about, what we need to be listening for in making that choice.
Brother Wells, in making that choice, yes, spirit-led, seeking the will and mind of God. But I think as somebody feels a call to a country and they begin to investigate what is a culture like, what is a historical background, what may I be facing spiritually, if it is an established work as well, you'd be very wise to begin to understand the structure, the operation, a superintendent, the various aspects of the work, what departments may be established, so that you go with some sense of knowledge. And yet also, as you're doing that, you want to make connection with the leadership of that country, introducing yourself, phone calling, interacting with them, so you can begin to catch their vision, what they are thinking and feeling, because you don't want your vision to conflict with what they may already have established. Yet also understanding that if you're going to an established field, like it's a different culture, church culture is different as well. Because in my state, or where I'm coming from, this is how we do it. How we do it and how we adjust there can be real different in learning how to do that. So I have gone to a field that was established, but now also I'm working in areas where it is not established and learning how to bring that together. And one other thing, I think this can play a lot into it. If you're going to an area that is not established, what is your background in the district that you're coming from? Are you a minister? Are you a pastor? Have you worked in that area? Have you integrated into the district? Because you can pick up a lot of learning skills or knowledge, I should say, of when you go to establish a new work. Going to a new area, the learning curve is so sharp that if you go and you're having to establish a new work and establish the work as far as being nationalized, we use that term sometimes, that's very sharp. So you need to go with all you can in your suitcase besides your clothes to know how to work that.
Brother Tuttle, why don't we walk through our panelists with this question and get some insight? We've got different callings, different anointings, obviously different mission work that's happening in each of these fields. Help us walk through this topic.
Thank you again, Brother Wells. And you're right, the brethren that are with us, joining us from Europe right now, have all entered this in a little different level. I want to jump to Romania, to Bucharest, Romania, Brother Michael Patterson, he served first of all on the AIM program in Germany, and then also now he's in Bucharest. And when you went to Bucharest, when you went to Romania, Brother Patterson, tell us, how many churches, how many preachers were there, and how many constituents and Holy Ghost-filled people were there in Romania when you got there, and what did you do?
Well, we were working with a group, Brother Tuttle, at that time, but they were no licensed ministers, and it was working with the church, but they were not United Pentecostal. And then we started our own church. We started a church in Cluj-Napoca. We started a church in Piatra Neamț. And then a little later, we started a church in Bucharest. And so, yes, you start from ground zero, and I love the pioneering aspect of missions, and I focus on the positives, Brother Tuttle, in that everything that you need, all the tools, all the materials that you need to build a church is there in your hands, because God has supplied all of our needs to start that church. And I think that there is a mathematical equation: God plus you plus time equals the harvest. And that is the area of where I work and have been working in Bucharest, that God has helped us raise up churches and preaching points in this great city of about 2 million people. So I love the aspect of pioneering work, Brother Tuttle.
Thank you, Brother Patterson. One quick question. How many churches, church plants, or even preaching points do you have in Romania right now?
We have 3 churches and 11 preaching points in Romania right now.
Wow. That's awesome. That's fantastic. Let's go to Riga, Latvia. Brother Luke Havens, he went there as an aimer and served, and now he's the superintendent of Latvia and is also the head pastor, lead pastor in Riga. Brother Havens, give us your point of view and how you felt when you went there.
Okay. Thank you, Brother Tuttle. I think that you have to follow God's call wherever it leads, whether that's to a pioneer work or to an established work. And I think that's, of course, the first fundamental thing. I think that both a pioneer work and an established work are very much an adventure worth taking. But I do think that they require different skills or different gifts. Listening to Brother Patterson, starting from that spot, that takes a lot of drive, a lot of get up and go, and you have to have that in order to be able to start from nothing. And so it requires different things. I think with a pioneer work, it's great because you can begin to influence the development of the church culture. Whereas if you go to an established work, you don't have that opportunity as much because they have been established in the way they do things. But when you start from nothing, you get to influence all of those things moving forward and hopefully correct the things that you've learned along the way.
Amen.
And you get to also build deep, long relationships with people from the beginning that you don't have that opportunity to in an established work. My personal experience, when I came to Riga, Latvia, I think there was a missionary, Mark and Robin Schutz, that were here before me, and the group of aimers that I came with. And when we came right after their deputation. There was, I believe, one family that was connected to the church that had been born again. There more had happened, but leaving on deputation, all those things affected. And so in that case, I was able to be here from the beginning of where the church currently is. And I do want to say that was, of course, a blessing, because I had the opportunity of being in a work that was essentially starting from nothing, but having the ability to draw on the resources of a mentor who has currently been in missions for approximately 30 years. And so that was a huge resource of being able to draw upon that when, of course, I did not have that experience. And so I think that that's a fantastic thing to be able to do. And regardless whether it's a pioneer work or a established work, being able to reach for a mentor and having someone to draw from as a resource is an incredible benefit. And my final closing comments that I would make are simply that I think that while the Great Commission remains the same, of course, I think that dynamics in missions, regardless where you go, these things seem to change. But the harvest really is great, and we definitely do need more laborers, whether they're young or old. I went when I was 20, and I know people that have gone when they're older. And I think we just need more laborers. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Havens. Excellent answer. Let's jump to Central Europe, Paris, France. Brother Baron Carson with his wife Jen came to Europe. Actually, their first trip over was on an AYC trip. And then he served a bit in the Netherlands, and then he came to Paris Brother Carson, give us some direction, some ideas how you felt. What got you to where you're at right now?
Well, our experience is maybe a little different than perhaps Brother Patterson or Brother Havens. But whenever we came to the Netherlands, we had the expectation of working with one of our North American representatives there. And that did not work out. So it ended up being my wife and I kind of on the field by ourselves. But we were given some great advice by our regional director, Brother Tuttle. Basically, keep your mouth shut and watch what's going on for the first few months that you're here before you start giving advice. And I think that's such good advice because we are not trying to Americanize the world. We're not trying to convert people to a North American way of thinking or to our way of thinking. There is a unique culture, and people that are from that culture, nationals, they know how to reach their people. And whenever we go into another country, it's our responsibility to link arms with them and support them. And how can we help propel the ministry that's already taking place there further? And you don't know how to do that unless you keep your mouth shut sometimes, just kind of see what's going on and then figure out how you can inject yourself into that conversation. And one of the cool things about life is everything that's happened in your life up until this point is part of your toolkit. God has equipped you. He's enabled you with unique talents, gifts, and abilities. And certainly we are aware of the 9 spiritual gifts of the Spirit, but there's other gifts of administration, gifts of help, gifts of hospitality. And we all have different giftings. And it's important to figure out, how can my giftings be put into effect in the kingdom? When my wife and I moved to Paris, and we're living in France now working, it's a much more established, larger work, and we're still kind of in the same position of how do we work with the national church to help them go further, faster. We are not yet fluent in French, so we're going to have some limitations in that regard. However, we have talents and gifts and abilities that we can pour into our local church, that we can pour into our national work to help them reach the people that God has called them to reach. And that's really what our job is as missionaries, as representatives, is to equip the people that are on the ground to go forward and make disciples.
Brother Tuttle, throughout this conversation, we've been dancing on and talking about, every one of these panelists has addressed, what's your calling? What's your gifting? And you're working in this before you come to the field. And so allowing the Lord to use those things which He's placed in us and to use those things. I wonder if you would address, as the regional director, providing an apostolic covering in this area. This is a very apostolic discussion. Yeah, we've got these practical concepts of, am I going to an established work where it might be a little bit easier? Am I really going to go out there and dig out a pioneering work? What's your calling? Talk about the importance of knowing where you are in the fivefold ministry in a particular season of your life.
Thank you, Brother Wells. That is an awesome question and a huge opportunity to take the rest of the time and talk about it, but I won't. I want to say that this is something that I talk to young people and even pastors across our fellowship when we're traveling as to, how do I know? What do I, I want to go to XYZ country. I want to go here. How do I know if I'm called there? And actually the calling is to win the lost. And I have a little favorite saying that the missionaries all hear me say is that we have 2 functions in the church, and that is to see lost people get saved and saved people stay saved. That's what we're all about. And if you're not doing that where you're at in hometown USA or hometown Canada, you're not going to do it into faraway land wherever. You start doing what you are called to do, and that's to win the lost or see the lost get saved, is you start doing that in hometown. If you're not doing it with your local pastor, and if you're not working under his care, under his direction, you will not do it when you get to the mission field. And then the next step, I would say a good step for someone interested in perhaps considering a call outside of hometown, outside of the United States or Canada, would be to take a trip to that country, to that city. Like the Carsons, they went on an AYC trip in 2014 to the wonderful country of the Netherlands. And that's where they found their calling, and that's where they found their open door. And I know the Kelleys had visited overseas. I know that other missionaries, the Pattersons, had served as aimers, short-term missionaries in Germany, and that's where the passion and the burden for a country came. But I emphasize the fact that it has to happen at home. It has to happen where you're at. If you're not teaching a Bible study, you're not going to teach a Bible study on the foreign field. Get a Bible study. Find somebody. Win into the Lord right where you're at, and it'll work everywhere. So that's kind of where we're at on that, I think, brother.
This has been very inspirational. It's been very clearly informational. Such a great time with you guys on this panel. Thank you so much for taking the time and giving us this guidance and direction. I truly believe there are people watching out there right now that are going to go and pray about this. It's been a call at every position on this panel. We need laborers. Thank you guys so much for joining us this morning. Thank you for joining us. God bless.